So then
Let's
what
go back
made
to
you
Paul.
pivot from the New World then to England? Or would you describe that as the new world?
It is a new world.
Yeah.
I've actually been writing about English wine just about as long as I've been writing about Australian wine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And I've got tasting notes going back 40 years on
Wow.
English wine. And they're interesting to read because they're almost entirely without merit. But I'm looking all the time, trying to see, because it's our country. That's
Yeah.
why. I just thought there's not much to be proud of yet, but it's our country. And if they're going to try and make wine, I'm going to be there with them.
And what are you most excited about now in terms of English wine?
Still sparkling wine.
Yeah.
Sorry, sparkling wine particularly.
Yeah.
I think that the progress that's been made in sparkling wine in the last 10 years is nothing short of remarkable. We were making some decent sparkling wines 15 years ago. One or two people like Nye Timber and Ridgeview were doing it 20 years
Yeah.
ago, 25 years ago. But it's in the last 10 years. And our, as a country, our acceptance and our enthusiasm for English wine is about 6 years old. It's not 10 years old even. It was that really hot summer of 2018 when
Great.
the heat went onto the front pages of the newspapers, not page 36, and the story of sunshine, heat wave was on page one of the tabloids, page one of the broadsheets, page one in all the news feeds. Heat, and everyone began to think, wow, is this going to be regular? And everyone's saying global warming, this is happening now, this is example, it's going to be like this again and again and again. And instead of, even 6-7 years ago, people would be saying, oh, English wine, really? I didn't know we made any. And then about 5 years ago, they say, oh, English, is it? Well, really, it's rather good, eh? Rather good for English. And about 3 or 4 years ago, they were starting to say things, oh, that's a lovely English wine. Oh, I wonder where I can get that. Where's the vineyard you said? I must go and visit it. And now, and COVID in a strange way helped this because COVID and
Brexit, I was going to say.
Brexit has forced us to look for, whatever one thinks about Brexit, it's forced us to look in on ourselves and say, well, if our politicians are making such a mess of our lives, we have to start trying to support ourselves, support our communities, support the people around. What do we want to live in? Do we want to live in ghost towns? Do we want to live in an utter mess? Or do we want to say, okay, we'll try and do some good in our area, whether it's Kent or Sussex or Hampshire or Dorset or Derbyshire or Lincolnshire or Yorkshire, wherever it happens to be. Start supporting your local all over again. I know cost of living crisis has again given a real kick in the teeth to all kinds of businesses, pubs, butchers, bakers, wineries too. But it has forced us to look in on ourselves. And I do think people have discovered that why should you buy champagne when England makes just as good a drink?
Well, didn't you get banned from champagne in the 90s?
Oh, yes, I've been banned, I think, twice. Banned from Bordeaux, banned from Champagne. Basically banned from Champagne for saying, you guys are taking the piss. And stop taking the piss. And their immediate response was, oh, absolutely disgraceful. Someone telling the truth, ban him. I had the same with Bordeaux. I said, stop taking the piss and sending us these second-rate wines which you're charging too much for. Oh, God, someone telling the truth, ban him. I mean, it's a big problem with the wine writing fraternity, is that we rely endlessly on sort of hospitality to understand our business. And it's very, very easy, certainly at the upper end of the market. Burgundy is another example. You're rude about Burgundy, they say, oh, just don't invite him to any tastings. You can't visit us. Champagne, Bordeaux, Piedmont in...
What do you think is the biggest challenge working in wine in the wine industry?
Objectivity is one of them. Simple objectivity. Even if you go to the Aldi or the Sainsbury's or the Waitrose tasting, and you like the people there, and you think, oh, I remember we used to work together, blah 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 blah, and suddenly you think, how good is this wine? I'll give you a decent mark, rather than thinking, no, these wines are simply not good enough, and I'm going to say so. Simply not good enough, and I'm going to say so. We have more good wine now in the world than we've ever had.
That's true.
So it's much less of a problem. I would have said 15 years ago, 20 years ago, certainly, objectivity was. That's why Gillian and I got into such a trouble all the time, because we started saying, don't do this, don't buy that.
You were like
it's
the little
no
boy
good.
in the Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah. The Emperor's New Clothes in the 1990s. Champagne was the Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
Burgundy was the Emperor's New Clothes. Barolo and Barbaresco were Emperor's New Clothes in the 1990s. And if anyone said so, there was that sense of you've crossed a line here. And that's what, in a way, why Robert Parker was so important, because he said, although things went badly wrong in the second half of his reign, but the first half of his reign was saying, nobody talks the truth about wine, so I'll tell the truth about wine. And he was really important for 10 or 15 years until it all started going wrong. But the New World, Gillian and I could not have done what we did without the New World. I couldn't have written my books without the New World, because the New World basically said, we're trying to make something taste nice. You know, that old thing of, hello, what do you blokes like to drink? We'll go and make it for you. Instead of this, we have been making it for 6 generations, and if you don't like it, that's not our problem. That's the German way of doing it, anyway. Is that, I can't remember. Italian. Oh, it's French. It's now Europe has taken the New World approach of the consumer matters to heart, and has done for 20 years. And now, in a way, this whole thing of the vineyard, the terroir, we're getting all this with the natural wine movement and wild yeasts and terroir and
skin contact,
all these things are all now different ways of saying, actually, just because the wine tastes good isn't good enough anymore. Well, for the majority of the population, wine tasting good is good enough. We go on with all these movements because so long as they're movements, I don't mind. When they become ideologies, like the natural wine thing was in danger of becoming an ideology. And people like you and me were toxic because we said, no, that's not a very good wine. It's natural. It's got to be good. No, it doesn't. And people were saying, it doesn't matter what the wine tastes like so long as it is made in a natural way. And you think, excuse me, can I use the word? Yes, it's bollocks.
Yeah.
It's bollocks. Basically, wine is there to give pleasure. Now, if you want to find an ethical and moral way to give yourself pleasure by doing all kinds of special things which mean something to you as a wine producer, that's fine. But your objective in life, the only reason you make that product has to be to give wine pleasure to the consumer. And if you lose sight of that, my feeling is you've lost sight of why you're in the wine business.